Hey yo, what is up you guys? It is Dyer here. Today we're going to be doing part 2 of the ambient lighting install in the GR Supra here. If you haven't already, please go check out part 1 as it is a requirement to do part 2 today. We are going to be knocking out the door cards. Now you will notice when I get to the remove the door card instructions, I changed outfits. That is because I have already done the passenger side. If you have watched part 1, I plan to only use 1 door pocket light. I ended up going with 2. I also do recommend you start with the passenger side yourself because early warning, this is not fun. It's very easy to not have things go OEM style. I also want to warn you that if you have a 2023 and up, the wiring harness has changed and you got to get a little bit more involved with where you get your power and ground from, opposed to the 2020 and 2022 guides you may have seen on this setup. In total, that passenger side door card took approximately 5 hours. Now, granted, that was me learning how to wire it as well, but just again, a heads up, it's not a fun one. All right, now I would like to start out with the kit that you're going to need to pull this off because it is a little bit more extensive than just doing part 1. You are looking at needing some butt connectors here. We are going to use these to tap our power and ground source. I recommend some extra fuses for the fuse panel just in case you accidentally touch 2 things together behind the door you shouldn't. In this guy here, we have a whole assortment of trim tools. These picks are a must, and then of course, at least some of these trim tools, ideally most. Some extra wiring with a decent gauge on it. This is some leftover speaker wire. I mean, that's going to work great for our purposes. And then of course, some wire strippers to work with that. Also, you're going to need some of these connector guys here for wiring. Now, granted, for the butt plugs here that I showed you and these guys, you can also use a soldering iron. I do not trust myself enough and I want it to be easily undoable, so that is why I'm choosing to go this route. Also gonna need a couple of different tapes. Recommend some electrical tape, double-sided mounting tape. This actually comes with the kit a little bit, and then some big boy heavy-duty double-sided mounted tape. Lastly, you can get these off Amazon. These are going to be the clips that pop off when you remove that door card. Some of them break. You can buy a pack of 15 for like $8. Recommend having those ahead of time. And then lastly, also going to need a couple of wrenches, not a whole bunch, a 13 and a 10, easy peasy. Of course, a drill. And then if you're doing the door handle lights, I dremeled out the inside of the door card. It is scary. I mean, I'll show you guys me doing it. Up to you, but I think it is worth it if you do it in the right spot. It's hidden behind the door handle. Totally cool there. And then lastly, I recommend you get an assortment of T bits here because we're going to use the T15 and I believe the T25 as well. Memory serves correct. You may see me use a couple other miscellaneous items, but this is what I recommend to have this go as smooth as possible. All right, now we're gonna cut to my footage from a few days ago when I removed the door card off of the passenger side. Should be very similar on the driver's side here. I will, of course, start recording if anything is different. So the first step is there are 3 T15 screws. The first one is hidden underneath of this panel here in the door pocket. What you wanna do is get yourself a little pick, rotated it towards the pinhole. That popped it right off. And again, 2 T15 screws. From there, as always, there's one behind the door handle here. Pull the door handle back and there's a little slot at the top there. Wow. Okay, that one is violent. From here, on the underside of the door here, there are 2 slots with little plastic tabs that you have to rotate to line up with their exit. Strongly recommend getting a light down here and 10 mil wrench, and it's just a matter of guess and check. Don't pull too hard. It'll slide out pretty easily when it is lined up. Cool. It's a lot easier than I thought it would be. So now from here, you want to start with those actual pop panels. And this bottom right one from what I've seen. Ow, okay, all of them popped. Hot tip, instead of just yanking on this bottom corner, get yourself a thick pry tool like this, wedge it in here and pull towards you. It makes these pop out a lot nicely, one at a time rather than all at once. I think that's what made some break last time I did that. Now be careful with this bar here when you're prying. There is a pretty big last clip here. You don't want to bend that bar too bad. Also, another tip for you, I just gotten done talking about how delicate this guy is and how you don't want to bend him. You can actually remove him early. He will be mounted right in here. You want to take your pry tool and just kind of twist it to the point where he pops out. Tap it from the top, then he'll fall straight down. Whew. Okay. That clip is There are 4 connectors behind the door, starting with the speaker. You slide that guy to the left. Second, there is the window switch connector. Just pull that guy downwards. There's the guy for the locking controls. Again, just pull him down. And then the door handle connector. You simply just pull that guy outwards. All right, here we go. Here's one difference. Now, this wiring harness looks like it did in the other tutorials. The window switch on the other side is just a little clip. This guy's a little bit more complex. I'm trying to figure him out without breaking him here. So what kind of special tomfoolery do we have going on with this guy? Well, I broke it, but I got it out. So this guy is hanging out. So he has a bar going across here. I broke that bar, but that broke it free. And it seems to still kind of lock it in place. So I don't think it's the end of the world. Just be careful. Don't do what I did. Future Dyer here. You really don't want to break this connector as it is a Citroen part. That's right. I had to ghetto rig mine in there. I did order the part as a replacement just in case my ghetto rig fails. But yeah, our GR Supra has some French parts in it, turns out. Here's a screenshot. If you don't believe me, part number will be down below if you do the same thing. And then I also removed the trunk opener, which was not fun. It wants to pull the whole mechanism out here. So I had my hand here holding the actual mount down. And then I had these little tweezers here on either side, just hitting a little jig till she came loose. And I believe from here, we are free. So now this is where the tutorial gets a little bit different. I might be able to tap this like I've seen in the other videos, but I am not gonna chance it. What I did on the passenger side was remove this weather seal. I know it sounds scary, but it's actually really easy to do. And once you remove this weather seal, there is the power and ground wires for the window regulator. That's where we're gonna tap into. So we're gonna put this guy off to the side and focus on getting power and ground hooked up before anything else. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do is remove these 7 T30 bolts here. Easy, easy peasy. Next thing we're gonna need is 2 wrenches, a 10 mil to get this guy off right here. And then these guys here are super weird. If you've ever bought IKEA furniture, that's what they remind me of. You take a 13-inch wrench and just rotate them so the arrows are approximately 90 degrees. They'll bottom out when they're fully loosened. And then from here, thankfully, there's no real adhesive or glue. It's just a matter of getting your fingers under there and dropping her down. Cool. All right, this is where things can be a bit of a pain. All right, so once you get the weather shield off, you'll see the connectors for your window regulator right here. You're actually gonna remove that. You just squeeze and pull. Oh, it's nowhere near as easy as the other side because the stupid ass squeeze is closest to you. Also, you don't wanna try to tug on the wires too hard because they are weather sealed in there. Yeah, buddy. Once you've gotten that connector out, they make it nice and easy for us. Brown for ground and red and blue for power. Feel free to get a voltmeter and test like I'm going to just to be sure, but that is how she's gonna be set up. 12 volts, constant, easy peasy lemon squeezy. Now that we have verified that to be so, this is where you can get your soldering iron out, or you can use these butt taps. I'm gonna use the butt taps because it worked on the other side, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Now, one little problem you're gonna run into is there is not enough slack in these wires to have this guy bite down without getting other wires involved. So you gotta cut up the sleeving a little bit. Please be extremely careful. You don't wanna nick these wires at all, or else you could be in trouble. Awesome, all right. Make sure none of the wires got, snagged or torn, still all snug as a bug on a rug. And you don't want to pull too hard, but you do want to give it the tug test, make sure it ain't going anywhere. Maybe crimp it in a second spot or a third spot, just depending on how spicy you're feeling. All right, we've got her mostly taped up there. You can see either piggyback splitting off. I do recommend electrical taping them individually. Now I'm going to pull that sleeve back down and wrap this all up into one big ball. Before I do that though, I am going to test these leads here to make sure that it's still coming through with power correctly. And then here is the setup for the doors. So 2 door pocket lights here, 1 door handle light, and the LED strip. You're gonna grab your power connector, take these two little jump pins off, and then strip these guys down. And again, you can solder these too. I just want them to be a little bit less of a permanent installation in case they break, need to hot fix it. I missed one crucial step. It's all right, I'm just gonna have to work with it. You definitely wanna trim your slack off. The box is gonna go somewhere like right here. So I got a little bit extra to deal with. Not a terrible situation, but just definitely recommend trimming that up so you don't have to tape down extra wiring once you're done. All right, once you've gotten your extremely long or extremely short power connector all wired up, we are going to test one more time just to make sure these bippies light up. Just like that, we have a successful power connection. So now from here, we're gonna leave all of this here in the garage and work on getting the door cards all cut up and lights fitted. All right, now that we have the door panel off, it's a good time to look for any broken clips. I got one right here that got maunched a little bit. Slot those in. Okay, now from here, bust out our pry tools. I am looking for my 90-degree pick. So this here, at least on the passenger side, was the biggest pain in the ass of this whole job. A lot of the videos run this through and then cut it to size. I'm gonna have you leave it in all one piece. The reason this is such a pain is there is no way to separate these very easily. And they are very tightly packed together, at least on the passenger side on my vehicle. Where we're gonna slip this guy through is we're gonna use our pick tool to separate this little armrest right here. And on the back side, you can slip it through right in this section. So as you can see, the one little problem with getting us into the corner that we need to be in is this little square tab right here. So I think I'm gonna take that out. And that is quite literally the answer to all of our problems right there. If I would have done that on the other side, it would have saved me so much time. So now getting this started can be a huge pain in the ass still. Like we're nowhere near out of the woods yet. So what I did for this, some sort of pick. Obviously pry tools work too, but a pick, because God, it is such a tight squeeze when you first start. And we're just gonna kind of focus on massaging this for the next couple of minutes, not necessarily trying to wedge anything in there. Just getting to the point where there's a decent enough gap that we can do something with. Whew, all right. It's now about 4 hours later. I finally have the RGB strip all the way in there. I'm gonna show you a couple of tricks here in a second, but first and foremost, I wanna warn you. I know I said it at the beginning, but this install really isn't for the faint of heart. Unfortunately, as you can see, at some point I shorted this RGB strip out while inserting it. The craziest part about this is the second time I've done this with this store. I've already gotten it in there once, I shorted it out, snipped it, this is the second try, shorted it out again. You just gotta be super careful while cramming it in there. As you guys saw, I started off using this generic set of pry tools. I ended up having to go to Lowe's, picking up this Craftsman set, and that helped significantly because those just wore out. I eventually was left with nothing that could even get in between there. These seem to be a little bit higher quality. I do recommend going with higher quality pry tools for this job. It's just hard, man. It's already started to work its way out because I fucked with it a little bit. But ultimately you can insert from the back and then pull the RGB strip from behind, and that helps when setting it first in place. And then you lay it down with the pry tools, just going at it. So right here is one of the techniques that I used to make sure it was firmly pressed down in there. Grabbing one of these double prong guys, starting with somewhere where it's super firm, and then just walking. Pressure to the right, pressure to the left, pressure to the right, pressure to the left. And I mean, it's gonna take a plethora of techniques. A second set of hands helps. I had my girlfriend helping me out with this as well. I am relieved to know that there are carbon replacements for these pieces because you really do have to go to town. I still am gonna finish the rest of this tonight, so we're gonna get the door handle light started next. So I'm gonna put that LED just a little bit behind the circle there. We're gonna make some marks here with my Sharpie. All right, once you've got a rough outline of where it's gonna be, before you actually start cutting out that outline, I'm gonna recommend you drill a hole through about the size of this LED. That'll give a perfect spot for the light to shine through. It'll also give you a reference while you're cutting of how deep you need to go. And just like that, your hole should be perfectly concealed behind the door handle there. Now we're gonna go ahead and blow that out. A little bit bigger bit here. That's a little spooky. Again, not for the faint of heart. What you're gonna wanna do is Dremel out this top surface layer. There is a little gap in between the two plastic areas. So you don't wanna get that bottom surface area, you just want this top one. All right, now you can see what I mean. This guy can rest down in there. The LED can shine perfectly through. That is an A+ fit, if I do say so myself. So we're gonna go ahead and apply some electrical tape. First, I'm gonna get this whole area cleaned up though. Get him nice and settled in there. Again, you wanna make sure your LED is over that hole there. You want it kind of facing towards the back so it faces against the backsplash. So just make sure you tape it at kind of an angle here. All right, I do recommend going a little bit overkill with the tape. Last thing you want is that guy jigging around. Just give it a nice little tug, and as long as she survives that, she should be good for the road. Now from here, we're gonna work on the door lights. These are super easy as well. You're gonna put one at the very bottom of this peak here. Gives a nice ambient effect up the side. And another one at the back here to give some backlight going this way. Now we're gonna do that. We're just gonna drill some holes. Here are the door lights themselves. They separate super easily, just pull like that. So we're gonna drill a hole, put this at the bottom, insert this through the top. There you go, easy peasy. You kind of wanna watch the bottom of your door card here. I did chew it up a little bit. Luckily it's in a spot no one's ever gonna see. Now from here, what you wanna do is take this guy, fish him through the back. Perfect, you're gonna grab your controller box. You do kind of have to do that together. There we go. Perfect. All right. This is actually, I'm gonna recommend you tighten them up as somewhat in the dark. Now for this next one, we're gonna go right between these two circles here, again, towards the front, trying to angle it back a little bit, and go ahead and get her in there. All right, now if you didn't mess it up, all your lights should be in place. Again, I gotta wait till Saturday for this guy. So where I'm gonna leave off for tonight is I'm gonna put the weather seal back on. Super easy, as you guys know, T30 bolts, 7 of them, and then the little IKEA fasteners. Let's also not forget to hook back up the window regulator. And then before I do any bolts, I actually start by doing the IKEA fasteners. Here we got that 10mm nut that goes on right here. Oh. All right, after you tighten up the IKEA fasteners, from there it is just your 7 T50 bolts. Don't forget to snap this guy back in as well. And then when you go to put the door card on, I'll show you. You want to slide it down and then snap it in. Make sure he's not getting twisted or bent any funny ways. Unfortunately, that is as far as we can go today. Again, I will see you guys on Saturday when that new strip shows up. Yes, yes. Oh, thank God. About time. Now you will notice I have chewed it up in a couple of spots here. I could tuck it deeper, but I actually have a solution for the chewing up of this plastic piece because it's gonna happen no matter what tools you use pretty much. There are carbon covers that they make that go over top of this whole area. Only downside, it covers down in there as well. So once you put them on, you're not taking them off unless you probably wanna break them. But once you've got your LED strips in here, I'm gonna leave them out a little bit. So when I stick that carbon cover on, I can then tuck them and get it all exactly how I want it. All right, cool. Once you get to this point, I recommend getting something to set the door card on. I have this little helmet box here that works perfectly. All right, so now from here, we're gonna wanna get our connectors hooked back up. Yeah, I do have the replacement clip ordered if this does fail, but I figured it's gonna take 2 weeks, so might as well try to ghetto rig it if I can. But just one more final test here. Beautiful. All right, from here, it's snap it into the plastic clips. Don't forget to run the locking stick back through. That guy's the worst one to undo. All right, cool. You think you're out of the woods once you got that clipped on, but you're not. Can't forget to get those screws in there. Where's my drill? Where's my drill? God damn it. You want to check this hole right here. Sure you don't have any cables running behind it. I just have some tape. I did tape them out of the way. Recommendation there, tape the cable out of the way behind the door handle. All right, you guys. And with that, we're good. Wow, wow, wow. Guys. Whew. Is it worth it? I think so. Is it probably one of the worst installs I've ever done on a vehicle? Probably also. God, does it look good. While editing, I realized I never quite showed you guys what it looks like during the daytime, and they are bright enough that if not in direct sunlight, the color does come through pretty well. Your door cards are a little lost, unfortunately, as well as your footwell lights. I mean, if you look down under there, you can still see them though. Very, very, very pleased. I think I am gonna wrap this video up here and do a full showcasing of the ambient lighting in a part 2. Once the carbon covers are in and I get everything perfect, then I'll do, you know, a 3 to 4 minute video just showing how good it can look. Please let me know if you have any questions down below. Again, this is a nightmare install. Gotta be willing to stick it through and have some heartbreak, and my fingers are chewed up bad from doing this. And this was like a week ago now at this point that I finished all this. But yeah, again, please don't be hesitant to comment down below if you're confused on anything before, after, or during the install. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you guys think it looks as good as I do, and drive safe out there.